Yo, what's up guys? Starting the next patch, where that's gonna happen on Monday, I think, we will have an upgrade to the Summoner's Way. And Summoner's Way is just the whole achievement line that you're going through. And normally we need an event to get a free selection on a 5-star. Now every account, also the accounts that are still being played, everyone will get a selection in Net 5. So I will be giving my top 10 of Net 5s that I do recommend, but I also give a few honorable mentions, and I also, all the way at the end, give a few why nots, because there's always a few units that always do pop up from previous iterations, and then you might think it's like, hey, are those still viable? Well, not really. So what do you have to do? It's pretty much all of those things, which is fairly simple. You can do all of this, I guess, within one day if you really try hard. Otherwise, you definitely clear this in the first week. That you can select your specific Net 5 you want. Also, I want to thank Counterus for finally implementing this. I mentioned it back in like 2023 or 2024 that this kind of stuff should be in the game permanently in the Summoner's Way. Otherwise, it's one of those things like, oh, I just missed the event, now I don't want to start the game kind of style. But now you do actually want to start the game on this, because you will have your free selection Net 5 that can actually kickstart your game very well. So let's look into the numbers first. Honorable mentions. First honorable mention is going to be Sonya. She's still really good in some arena offenses, siege offenses, and also RTA, but she's kind of falling off a little bit of getting the best in slot in all three of those. So she's kind of fallen off in all three of those. She's still really good. I do expect her with the relics to maybe make a little bit more of a comeback, because she will be easy to hit the threshold on the attack. She is a good nuker, but she's just outside of that top 10 in my opinion. Another honorable mention is every specific RTA unit. So this is more for the endgame players out there. If you have a specific RTA unit in mind that is good in the current state of the game, definitely do pick those if you don't need anything else. But in most cases, you want to go more for an all-round unit. A unit that you could be thinking of could be for purely RTA, could be a Josephine. Current meta, it's also very strong to have like the Water Gandalf in there. But that is one of those very strong current meta-specific kind of units. So I wouldn't really recommend newer players or mid-game players to pick those up. To go for these kind of units, because they're just really strong in current meta. Layla's a little bit more all-round than the other fews that I just mentioned. But those are just a few combined honorable mentions out there of units that are pretty solid, but very specific for one task. However, if you got all of the other tasks covered already, might be a good pick. So then let's start off with the list with a Daragon on number 10, which purely shines in one type of content. Well, actually two. You can also use him as subjugation bosses, but he's just simply made for the Temple of Chaos for every element. That is not the element of water, so that is this content out here. The thing is that he's just simply so much better than anything else in here that he's kind of a must pick if you don't have him, if you do want to perform well in that content, and I don't see him getting any nerfs anytime soon. So therefore, he does get my number 10. Number 9 goes towards Rigna. Super strong for siege offense, is better than a Sonya in most cases for siege offense because it's harder to trap her, does have a better skill one, does do an insane amount of damage. If you go very specific on the playstyle of cleaving in RTA, it is usable in RTA as long as you have a speed booster to get the speed that you need from yourself towards the enemy. You can also use it in arena offense, but those are the places to use it. I would argue that she's probably the most common, highest win rate siege offense Net 5 unit right now. Number 8 is gonna go towards Lamilia, and why is that? She's one of an all-rounder, and this also helps a little bit more towards the early game. She's relatively easy to build because all you need is HP on her. She's an HP type damage dealer, but she has the AoE brand and also AoE provoke, which is really strong, can be used towards TOA and those kind of things. She's very good in arena offense with the Amber and Trix team. She's very good in siege offense. You can also use her. Siege defense, very common unit out there, but you can also use it towards RTA. So everything PvP related, she is usable. Number 7 is a bit of an odd one out there probably, but it is really, really strong in current meta. Actually, for Special League, he is currently the highest win rate unit in-game. It does matter that there's no LDs out there, but he's like 54 win rate in G3. He's super annoying. He's super strong. He also makes some stages in TOA Hell very easy. So he's just very strong in a lot of cases, and all he does is just get stacks and then steal 50% HP from the enemy. But we're really much in a buff meta right now. Why is he not for the honorable mentions for the RTA units? Because he also is usable still in siege offense. You can also use him in arena offense if you want to go for slow clear, especially in the inter-server arena if the enemy has a few buffs. So he's definitely a bit more all-round than just going for RTA. whereas I give him a bit more credit. And he is a little bit meta dependent, where there's a lot of buffs in the current meta, yes, but he's still really good in a lot of content where he's very unique of dealing the insane amount of damage that he does, which is just clean 50%, while also healing an insane amount. So therefore, Wolfric gets my number 7. Number 6 is actually a shared slot out there. That is going to be Zyros, and on the other side, the Wind Legolas. So I will give that a shared slot 6, and that is for your specific nuker. Thing with the Zyros is, Zyros you can use at very low speed, and you can use anti-Leo, where you can't use that with Legolas. But Legolas you can make super fast and do an insane amount of damage. These two units are probably for arena offense your highest damage outputs that you can find. In the case of a Zyros, you're just aiming for very high attack, that you always have more attack than the enemy. And you want to have a little bit of accuracy for this reset out there. In the case of the Legolas, you just want to have a lot of speed and a lot of crit rate and a lot of crit damage, because you're scaling from speed, but you're also getting yourself a speed buff and a attack buff. So if you want to do a speed-based arena offense or siege offense and also have something that's usable in RTA, Legolas is your guy. If you care just more about nuking at lower speeds, then Zyros for arena offense and siege offense. Not an RTA unit, however. Therefore, the Legolas might be a slight bit of a 1-up over there. But then again, Zyros has a bit of a 1-up against Leo teams, because this thing against a Leo team will absolutely not work. However, both of them really great picks, and therefore number 6. Number 5, Leo. One of the most unique units in game, but I'm not going to give him the number 1 status at this moment. Because, well, sure, he might be countering the Shumar meta that might come up. He is really usable in arena offense and also in siege offense. However, I feel myself not using him all too much at the moment. Sure, I use him for the slow clears kind of lazy movements out there, but I'm not really particularly using it all too much these days for like high-end content where nothing else could replace him. Because in most cases, I just fight things different ways than fighting it with Leo. But however, Leo is still a really incredible good pick on number 5. But I feel that there's a few more units that might be still more interesting in the current state of the game. But then again, if you have a Lucifer or you're really playing around with the comp where everyone is as slow as the Leo and therefore you don't get speed gapped, it's still an incredibly strong unit. Number 4 is Tiana. Definitely not surprised to see this one on the list once again. Is very low on the base speed, but is the most consistent AoE strip in game that also gives an attack bar gain. On top of that, which is just super strong, she's very unique in that kind of sense. Still used for arena offense, still used for siege offense. Can also use that in RTA. Is also used in the TOA stages the moment that there's something to strip, because otherwise it might be, oh, you're at the final boss stage and you miss one strip and it's just going to be ass from that kind of on. So definitely one of those super strong units. Skill 2 does do a good bit of damage. You definitely want to be rocking that crit damage slot for, because it's scaling from the enemy speed. But don't have to say all too much about it, just the best strip in-game, and that is still out there, and that's, I don't think it's gonna change anytime soon as well. Then my number 3 recommendation is Amber. She has insane damage, and she only deals damage by the enemies having debuffs. That's all she needs to do. You don't have to go crit rate, you don't have to go crit damage. She will simply do a shit ton of damage on all of that. Crazy good unit, arguably by far, like if any other good TOA unit, TOA Hell is around here, she's up here. Like she's crazy good for TOA Hell. Still in one of the best offense in arena offense and siege offense that I'm using personally, which is going to be the Amber Trix Lamila +1. Trix we haven't seen on the list just yet. Amber is already mentioned. However, I do feel that Trix is also the easiest to replace by something else that could also strip. Amber, however, is very hard to replace because she just does an insanely amount of damage, provides the heal blocks, which are really nice, provides a bit of dots, so she just provides everything, has an insane amount of damage, plus can be picked in RTA as well, so she's super all-round and absolutely very strong. So therefore, she will get my number 3 spot. But what is stronger than Leo, Tiana, and Amber? Eretion for number 2. Might be a meta-depending thing at the moment. However, he's the only 33 speed lead in-game with an AoE strip, which makes him very good for arena defense, makes him very good for arena offense, because just a Kabila Eretion outspeeds about everything out there. Because you're looking at a 120 base, AoE strip on a 33 lead, still has a 1 base, and then you can just add in like a debuffer plus a nuker in slot 3 and 4, and you have a crazy good arena offense. So that's probably one of the better arena offense in-game out there right now. Eretion is really good for that. Plus, he is still the most picked and most contested RTA unit in the game right now. So he's definitely full on PvP, nothing related to Siege, but a very, very strong unit for PvP of anything Arena and RTA related. Sure, he did get a slight bit of a nerf on his S2. He might get a little bit of a nerf more in the future again, but I don't have a crystal ball. I have no clue if that's actually gonna happen. If he will be nerfed more in the future, I'll mention it in the comment section that he's maybe not that much of a pick anymore. But for now, the 33 lead with an AoE strip is just really good, especially for the three things that I just mentioned: Arena offense, Arena defense, and RTA. But then the big question: what is the number one if all of those other units, sure, they're good, but they're not number one quality for me? Well, that's actually this stupid thing for me. I think she's gonna get a nerf, so do keep it in mind. Check the comment section if she is already nerfed and I replace maybe another unit based on a buff or something the moment that you're watching this video. But if you're watching it on release, this unit is absolutely a menace. It's one of the highest win rates in high-ranking RTA. She's crazy good in Arena offense. She's very usable in Siege offense. She is usable in Arena defense as well. She's just absolutely annoying. And why is that? Well, simply anytime she gets a debuff, she gets attack bar, but she also kills 25% of the HP of the enemy. If she takes an additional turn, that is 50%. If she took 3 turns in general, she had 75% HP down of the whole enemy, which means that a few cleanups on other units will simply just clean up the whole battlefield. And that makes it absolutely insane. Strongest Arena offense for her out there is a double Aya version, plus a Leo, plus an Angela, will auto about almost everything that doesn't one-shot you in a very fast pace, and it's absolutely stupid how strong that is. In defense, you can just place it next to a whole bunch of things, but for RTA, it's more of a 4/5 pick. You don't pick it that early, but the moment that the enemy has AoE debuffs kind of style, she's absolutely a menace. She's really hard to deal with. You want to build her as tanky as possible because most of the time she's hit very early. She also does have that provoke. So even a single target unit, if a single target unit has a skill 1 with a 2-turn dot, you provoke them, you get a 2-turn dot on you, and you start murdering the whole team because you randomly provoked a Jaeger or something. She's absolutely a menace, and she's very hard to deal with. Plus, as mentioned, she's one of the higher win rates on high pick rates in high-end RTA. Sure, there's a few counts to her of just killing her right away or just completely ignoring her, but it is still a hard thing to do, and therefore she's that strong and that versatile on all of the PvP things in Summoners War right now, and she gets my number 1 spot. Okay, so I have the honorable mentions, I have my top 10, but looking at this list right now, I feel like that one unit is just missing in the top 10. So technically my top 10 is a top 11 already because I had one unit paired on the same thing. And I actually want to do the same thing with Amber. I want to put Amber number 3. I want to put Trix on the number 3 right next to it. So we actually have a top 12 or something. I don't know. I don't care. I don't make the rules. Well, actually, kind of I do. However, doesn't matter. Trix is crazy strong for RTA right now as well. And that was the main thing that actually kind of convinced me. Because if he's just good for Arena offense and for Siege offense, he's kind of okay, but also kind of replaceable. Most common team is the Trix, Lamila, Amber +1. Could be a Hagen, could be a Vermos, could be a Same, could be a whole bunch of things. He is very strong for adding extra damage on his debuffs. He's also very strong in the Siege offense with Tomoe, Amber, and then the Trix. But he's also a great counter because of the buff block into the buffs meta that we have right now with Josephine and Gandalf and all of that kind of nonsense. So he's actually, for that reason, I'm gonna give him the shared number 3 spot because I don't care. And now we're gonna go into the why nots. First one is Rika. Why not pick a Rika? Well, Rika is really strong for the amount of dots that you have out there, but nowadays you have a lot of 2As. This 2A kind of does a similar thing with a lot of dots. You have where the other one that also has, this thing has a lot of dots and stuns out there. This thing has a lot of dots, so it's kind of covered by free-to-play units where you don't really need a specific daughter kind of style of unit. But say Amber is a daughter. Not really, Amber is just pure damage. That unit doesn't care about is dots or is not dots. That's just pure on damage. So therefore going just for a daughter in this, not really recommended. Same for like a Bludja, same for a Rika. Would not really pick those from this kind of thing. The Adriana was missing. It's a strong argument as well, but I would say she's only good for Siege offense these days. Plus, a Chilling, if you have good enough runes, kind of does her job as well. Sure, you don't get the attack buff from it, but you still get a lot of value from your Chilling. Plus, Chilling is simply a lot faster. This unit, if you really just care about Siege, I would recommend to pick it up though. So, if you're just a Siege player, then the why not changes into might be actually interesting. But I would say she's only interesting for Siege these days. You could use her in RTA, you could use her in Arena Offense, but I think there's better options out there. Varette. It's just freezing, but there's so many units that are pushbacking and freezing. Plus, currently, if you start playing the game, there is this free-to-play unit that you get completely bold and everything just from doing TOA, which is Tyrone, which kind of does his job. And arguably even better because of the speed lead. So for Red, not really a necessity. Teshar might be one of those things like, oh, beginner, just pick up a Teshar and your Giants will be easy. PvE is very easy in the first place, especially when relics are released. I think PvE is going to get even more easy. You do have the Frodo right now, which gives the potential towards the whole team to give attack buff. So PvE is going to be very easy, especially for the early game, because this dude is relatively easy to pick up the moment that we can actually pick them up on the Summoners War unique units again. But for that reason, I think at Teshar, it's only good for your Giants, and you don't really need a specific unit just for Giants. So I think Teshar is the biggest waste of picking up in this event, even for a beginner. I would even say, especially for a beginner. Then the final why not, which is also a two-sided why not, is Nora. And Nora is, I would say, a jack of all trades, which is very good for early game accounts, because it can be used in about every content outside of just the dungeon farming. She is definitely really good in the first few weeks, but she will fall off later. So yes, she is really, really strong and a jack of all trades and does a bit of everything that will help you out with TOA. It will help you out with your first bit of RTA if you care about it. Very strong in your first arena offenses, your siege offense, all of those kind of things. Absolutely great unit, but I think she will fall off a little bit later. So therefore might be not that interesting. But if you just want a jack of all trades, very early game that does do a little bit of everything with damage, healing, provokes, strips, then Nora might be your pick. But it is just a very, like, if you're a new player and you don't know what to pick and you don't really know what to focus on, then I could say Nora might be an interesting unit for you. If you already have a specific idea of like, hey, I want to focus on this or that. Let's say you want to focus on arena offense, then I would definitely go for that Legolas or a Zyros. If you really want to focus on all of the PvP styles, but you're not entirely sure who fits with that, Tiana's always a good pick. Amber's always a good pick. Irration, Aya, those things are just great picks. Whereas this thing is an okay pick, but I think the others are simply just better. So with that, it wraps up my whole top 10, which now kind of became a top 12 with a few honorable mentions and a few why nots that could also be picked at some kind of moment. Either out top 10 sounds better. Which unit do you think that I should have put in my list? And which one would you recommend other people to start picking up from this Summoner's Way? If there's any unit buffed or nerfed to a certain extent, I will mention that in the comment section down below as well. For that, it's maybe not a good pick anymore, or maybe something else became a good pick. So this video is relevant for the whole year 2026, and maybe even starting towards the year 2027 as well. If the events are good during the 12th anniversary, I will be also starting the new beginner series, the 2026 beginner series. So if you do want to follow along on those, follow this channel and you will see more about those. Guys, thanks a lot for watching. See you as always in the next one.
Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.